Chancellor search, and then I'm also hoping that we can have a discussion amongst the board here about the qualities and criteria that we might begin to form for our new Chancellor. So, as you all know, I have appointed a 7-member search committee. That search committee met yesterday afternoon, and the purpose of that meeting was to interview search consultants. Fortunately, our foundation has provided the funding for that process, and we put out an RFP in early April. Steve, was it early April? I think so. Early April, we got 5 proposals from 5 what I thought were very, very good firms. Those firms made presentations yesterday to the committee. We had an opportunity to they presented their proposals. We had questions from the committee back and forth. We've made an initial recommendation to the foundation. We've asked for a little bit more information, but that search committee has authorized myself, along with Keitha Mills of the foundation, to enter into a contract to bring the search consultant on board. So I thought it was very, very productive, and I thank the members of the committee who were there yesterday for that work. So I will look with all due speed to work with Keitha and formally engage the consultant as soon as possible, so we can begin the work to meet with that consultant, lay out the qualities that we're looking for in a chancellor, some of the criteria, discuss with them recruitment strategy, and those kinds of things. I expect that the search committee will have to have what may be several meetings in between now and our next board meeting to meet with the search consultant. I think there was a consensus among our committee. We would certainly like to be in a position to appoint a chancellor by September 1st. Really, quite frankly, what we heard from the various applicants that yes, that's possible, but we also may choose, as we go through this, to take a little bit longer. We'll have to see what the pool of candidates are, what the response is, but I think certainly from the committee standpoint, we felt like we certainly would like to have a chancellor on board as soon as possible. To that point, I was hoping we could have a discussion today amongst the board. In particular, what do you all think are the important things that we need to look for in a chancellor? We have a very tough act to follow over here, but I want to make sure we bring input from all of the board into this process. So kind of open it up for a general discussion, and or if you have any questions about the process so far or the progress so far. Member
Well,
McDougall.
just to kick off the discussion, I think perhaps as much as anything else, we rely on the chancellor be the spokesperson for the largest system of higher education in America. And we need a person who is very articulate and very capable in regard to being able to present the system as fully as possible and as effectively as possible, so that the sense of what is achieved within the colleges is felt by those who are on the receiving end of that message. So we need a very effective communicator, but we also need somebody who has a great sense of depth, so that communication is coming from a base of substance. So I think we need someone with understanding of how the colleges operate and how they can work collaboratively and how the community colleges fit within this overall system of education, i.e. K-12 and the community, Cal State University, University of California. And to me, that kind of in-depth experience that provides a substantive capacity for articulating the vision, and then that ability to articulate the vision and provide that for the system as a whole would be two elements at least that I would place a very high priority on.
Right, and that, point's well taken, and I think, almost to every one of the applicants, the issue of being able to communicate the vision was evident in those proposals in our interviews. Member Azumi, then Member Baum.
And following up on what Member McDougall says, I think that that advocacy and that ability to present the vision in a very articulate way, I think it's also important to recognize who the audience is. The audience is not just people within the community college family, but people in the Capitol. And so I think that the person, we were very lucky, obviously, to have Chancellor Scott with his legislative background and his leadership in the Capitol to be able to navigate those waters and be an advocate within the Capitol with such great credibility. I do think that we really need, given these times, to have somebody who is able to have that type of political savvy, and I think that one of the things that the search committee was impressed with the firm that we did favor was that their recognition that we're not just hiring a local president here, we're hiring somebody who is going to be a system person that requires a lot of political know-how in order to navigate that.
Member Baum.
I would just add, also looking not only at our recent chancellor, but looking back over the last 15 or 20 years. In addition, and it should go without saying, but we need somebody with unquestioned integrity, somebody who can be a trusted voice and that is recognized for being pure of spirit and motivation in their work on behalf of the system. And that also said, it's sometimes difficult, but I always feel that, especially given what we've talked about sometimes on compensation, whoever is looking at this job should see this as an aspirational position, and that they are interested in being the chancellor of the California Community College system. That it's not just being the head of a respected system or district or anyone because they want to reach a certain level in their career, but they actually have a passion to be at the California Community College system and work on behalf of California's community college system students, and that's very important to me.
Yeah, that issue came up a lot yesterday. There was a kind of a recognition, certainly by the committee and most of the consultant candidates, that the issue of compensation is potentially can be a big issue, and that I think our pool of candidates are going to be, as you say, they're going to take an aspirational bent on this. That the money is not the prime motivator here, and I believe there are good candidates out there for that who are at the right place and time in their careers. But that's a subject we talked about in depth at the meeting yesterday. Member McDougall.
Yeah, I'm sure the committee would have an intention of doing this, but I would just like to reinforce that no one knows in some ways more than our present chancellor what the demands of the position are, and what the qualities are that are needed. And I would hope that the committee would sit down with the Chancellor very specifically to discuss those and get his point of view, to consider that point of view along with what else is being considered.
I think that's a good, good suggestion. I probably should let the members know also. I also sat down with our vice chancellors about 10 days ago or so and asked
Very
those
good.
same,
That's wonderful.
those same questions, and got some very good input from them, even suggestions of candidates. So that, I think, was very, very helpful. Member Malamud.
Well, it hasn't been stated, but in the past, we did request that they had preferably a PhD level degree because they're leading a higher education system. Though in the past, and it might be interesting to talk about, we said a master's might be okay, but PhD or equal level is preferred.
Yeah.
And in the past, we have had some chancellors who were a little bit adversarial with the governor. So I was just sitting here thinking, well, you can't figure out who the future governors are going to be. So that makes it hard. And yes, there might be situations where you want them to be a bit tougher, but just to also keep that in the back of your mind, because when you mentioned the legislature, it to me includes the or the Capitol.
Yeah.
It includes the governor, and just to keep that in mind as we meet our candidates and their personalities.
Yeah, I think it was very clear yesterday as well that we all realized that, you know, whoever it is going to be is going to have a level of political savvy and be able to deal with whoever is in the legislature, whoever is in the governor's seat, and have that kind of, as Peter said, communication, ability. So.
I think there was also a commitment of time to the position, that we're looking for someone that's willing to serve 3 to, say, 5 years, and isn't looking at this as simply a stepping stone to another level.
That's good.
We had some discussion.
I
Member
do
Meyer.
have a question. Has
Yeah.
there been discussion about applicants from outside the state? You know, how does the committee feel
Absolutely.
about that?
Absolutely. I think all of the consultant applicants represented that they would be doing a national search, and it would be important to do a national search. And I think the committee agreed with that. One of the reasons we kind of, I think, leaned toward the consultant that we're recommending was their ability to do that. And while we certainly need to look at California candidates, kind of an unbiased, look, I think is good. So yeah, the intent is to have a national search and see what that produces.
Well, that wasn't really what I meant.
Okay.
What I meant was, there was some concern in the past searches that they would not understand the laws in California
Ah.
and the culture and the way we do things. It's so different
Mhm.
that they might need a learning curve that would take up some time. So that's what I was sort of wondering.
Yeah, it's,
We're feeling open to people from other states.
yes, Vice President Baca.
Yeah, I think anyone that assumes that California is easy to understand, though, is sadly mistaken. But, or, the community college and the way it operates. I don't think anyone should ever be ruled out in a consideration like this, from my perspective. But I think it's very important to recognize that there is a level of understanding that is there, and for that to be trumped by something else, I think that something else has to be a fairly strong thing. So,
Okay, thank you.
Member Baum.
I just had a question. So we have a committee and a consultant. Who will be staffing the search on our behalf to make sure the trains run on time? And
Well,
how's that going to be happening?
Well, we don't have a consultant yet. We're in the
We may,
process
right.
of of doing, but so far we have been ably staffed by Vice Chancellor Bruckman, as well as the General Counsel from the foundation, and others actually at the foundation who have done great work.
So Steve, Vice Chancellor Bruckman would be the staff liaison
Yes.
for the search.
Mhm. Other comments? No. Member Hawkins?
Thank you. You and I have had conversations, so I thought I'd do it here, about increasing the 7-member panel or search. And I would, while I understand your concern about having an unwieldy group, I would really like to see that we have more than just the 7 that are on the Board of Governors, and would, like to say that we somehow include those representatives at consultation as a bare minimum.
Well, as I said in my initial email to you, once we got past the finding a consultant stage, that myself and Vice President Baca would look at how we might round out the committee. It is my strong feeling and strong desire not to have a large committee. Having said that, I would agree with you, Member Hawkins, that there are some voices there that could aid us in our decision-making process. So I'm going to take that under advisement, talk with Vice President Baca, others on the committee, and would anticipate making a few more appointments to the committee.
As Board of Governors members, should we anticipate there might be a need for a special meeting over the summer?
Absolutely. And maybe more than one. Absolutely. I feel strongly as chair of this board, when we get down to the final pool of candidates, and I don't know if that's 3, 4, or 5, or whatever, I feel strongly that those candidates should be interviewed by the board as a whole. And obviously that's going to take a special meeting, to do that. And again, I don't know yet at what point. Maybe it's the final 3, maybe it's the final 4, maybe it's the final 2. I don't know. But I think we all ought to be involved in that, and that will take at a minimum one meeting, most likely more than that. Certainly more for the search committee. Member Reed.
One item that seemed to be of importance yesterday was that our president had outlined the search process ending in somewhere, hopefully around the end of September, and that most of the consultants felt that that was doable, but at the same time, we might have to extend that period of time and work through that process, even though our present chancellor may be leaving earlier in September. So we have that on the table as a consideration. Most of them thought it might take a longer period of time to get the right person on board. So we left that open for discussion.
We did, and I think we felt, getting the right person is so important here that I, and I know our other members, felt we don't want to do any harm by unnecessarily speeding it up. Having said that, we'd certainly like to meet our deadline. But if we can't, we do have options, and I think the priority will be on the right candidate. Any other comments, questions? Okay, I pledge to keep you all informed as we move forward.